Goule's parting words are very important as they sum up the main message of the play, and there are three key sections to consider. Firstly, this one on the screen. One, Eva Smith has gone, but there are millions and millions and millions of Eva Smiths and John Smiths still left with us, with their lives, their hopes and fears, their suffering and chance of happiness all intertwined with our lives. Now here, Priestley is highlighting that Eva Smith is actually a symbol, a representation of all other poor citizens in the community. The story hasn't finished with her death, as there are other women and men who need looking after, and it's essential that we all take responsibility for our actions towards others, including those less fortunate than ourselves. As I talked about in the analysis of Eva, the surname Smith is one of the most common in Britain, so this again highlights that Eva actually stands for the other poor or disadvantaged members of society. Now this section is followed by possibly the most important line or lines in the entire play. We don't live alone, we are members of one body. We are responsible for each other. It's hard to imagine an exam answer which doesn't include these lines. They sum up Priestley's message of social responsibility completely. Whether answering on characters, themes, structure, etc., you could include analysis of these lines as the whole play revolves around the inspector, who of course reflects the voice of Priestley as the writer, and delivers a message of social responsibility both to the Burlings and to an audience. The final part of the speech contains a warning for those unwilling to accept this lesson of social responsibility, and the following section is the most significant. The time will soon come when if men will not learn that lesson, then they will be taught it in fire and blood and anguish. Good night. The words fire and blood and anguish have at least two possible interpretations. They appear in the Bible to reference hell and the end of the world, and so one suggestion is that Priestley, via the inspector, is saying that if men and women are unwilling to take responsibility for one another here on earth, then they'll be sent to hell to learn the lesson there. This interpretation fits in with the idea of Inspector Goole being a ghoul from the afterlife or a messenger from God sent to warn those on earth of the consequences of their actions if they don't learn to take responsibility for their behaviour. Alternatively, the phrase could refer to war, since fire and blood and anguish are all words with the connotation of war. The inspector may be warning both the Burlings and the audience that if men and women refuse to look after one another, more wars may follow. Remember, the play was first performed just after the wars to an audience who had experienced one or both of them, but it is set in 1912, just before World War I, and the Burlings, who are from a society where many of the rich were selfish and only concerned with themselves and their money, would be just about to go through that war. And Priestley, stroke the inspector's words, are a warning, and therefore highly relevant to both the characters and an audience. Well guys, everything I go through in this video series comes from Mr. Bruff's Guide to an Inspector Calls, written by Georgina Bottomley, available for £3.99 at mrbruff.com or amazon.co.uk. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and give the video a thumbs up.